It's mid-evening. Been a few hours since I made the last video um, where I read parts of chapter 1 uh, from This Is Not a Pipe. And of course it continued very much the same vein. Um, asking questions about what is the pipe, what where is the pipe? Are we being fooled into thinking that this is the pipe when in fact the pipe is somewhere else? I've been looking at this pipe and contemplating this pipe quite a bit more than I had expected. Though I should have saw it coming. Uh, at the sake of, at the risk of making it boring as to what pipe this is. It is a Dr. Grabo. The question now is it still a Dr. Grabo? And you might be wondering why would you? It's a cheap question, right? I mean, it's to score philosophical points, just to baffle people. But in a sense, no. The reason I ask it is the stem. This stem started as a fishtail, and I didn't like it. When I would put it into my mouth and hold it, the corners would dig in to the side of my tongue, and I really, really hated it. And so one day I was sitting eating lunch, and I grabbed my Dremel, and I assaulted Dr. Grabo with my rotary tool. I wasn't delicate about it either. I just wanted to get it done. So I ground it off, man. I didn't worry too much about the way it would look because I figured it's in my mouth. Why fuss, right? I mean, if it's functional, it's good. So there it is. So this, I after I was done, cleaned it up, started to use it. Of course, it it has a marked side to side because that fishtail helped to anchor it, not against my tongue, not using my tongue, but rather so much surface area to the mouthpiece that teeth could get it. Um, Not so much anymore. Kind of sits in the middle there. You change where your head moves, change where it flicks. I've got significantly more chatter on it because I've been using grip to compensate whenever I'm just holding it um, in my teeth. So it functions different too. I mean, you think, well, pipe has one function. Pipe does not have one function. Pipe has multiple functions. One is to draw the smoke, but another is to try to deal with condensation and to be engineered in such a way that it functions properly when you're gripping it with your teeth. So I changed that function. That function no longer exists. I also don't run the filter in here. It gets soaked, it gets tight, it makes it worse, much worse. So I don't utilize the stem the way it's engineered to be utilized. I don't grip it the way it was designed to be gripped. I haven't taken off the leaves. I haven't taken off the diamond. Okay, um, so that's all decoratively. That's all the case. But functionally, it operates differently than what it was designed to do. So once those changes are made, physical modifications and just simply ignoring parts of it, it's more of my pipe now. At some point, if I modify this enough, if I take the leaves off, if I change the color, you know, if I change the stem, let's say, heat it up, change the angle so it really drops out hard. Um, at some point, it's a new pipe. Um, so it's not a cheap question. It's not a cheap philosophical question to ask if this is still Dr. Grabo. This, of course, translates then into anybody out there who builds cars, right? Buy yourself a Corvette from 1972, and you take out the suspension, put in a modern suspension, maybe drop a different engine into it, paint it maybe, right? Uh, Once these changes start, you got to keep making those changes, right? If you put an engine in there with more power, now you got to drop out the brakes, you got to get new brakes in there, you got all kinds of things start to happen. It cascades. At some point, it's the shape of a Corvette from the 70s, but it is no longer a Corvette. It's a U. Just has that particular shape. That's all. But it's a U, whoever you are. Now, if you put new brakes in, does that happen? Little tiny bit, maybe. Still a Corvette, right? If I drop the filter out of here, is it a Brubaker now? No, it's a Dr. Grabo. It just doesn't have its filter. But now I've changed the stem, and if so, then now the filter's gone and the stem is different. It's still Dr. Grabo. You know, draws the same, colors the same, leaves, crosshatch, all that kind of stuff. How many changes do I need to make to this for it to no longer be a Dr. Grabo? It's still a pipe, but it's no longer a Dr. Grabo. There's a there's a line that gets crossed at some point. Um, so if you look at it philosophically, as opposed to legally or something like that. I mean, legally it's a Dr. Grabo, right? I mean, if you said, no, this is my pipe, no, you can't market that as your pipe. This is Dr. Grabo, right? So just speaking philosophically, not legally, it's somewhat of a different thing. You know, what we tag with language starts to become interesting. Like, oh, okay, philosophically, maybe it's starting on that road to being a Brubaker as opposed to a Grabo. Um, and that's what's going on here. Of course, he's saying, can we call this image a pipe? If we think about it, maybe the artist sat there and set the pipe up. Don't want to get it too close. Set the pipe up and then painted a picture of the pipe on an easel as the painting. Then the next day came in and decided to look at it from a different perspective. Painted the same pipe, but painted it bigger, not on an easel, etc., etc. So now it's a picture, just a pure picture of a pipe without any other elements, just a pipe. Whereas the other one has an easel, has for all that kind of thing. So, I mean, is it possible that he came in the next day and he painted the pipe from the painting of the pipe on the easel. And he didn't look at the original, at the object at all. He just painted it from a painting. And that's what Foucault is starting to get to. It's like, where do we tag pipe? Someone argued, well, maybe there was no pipe there to begin with. Maybe what he painted originally was the memory of a pipe. His grandfather smoked a pipe. He remembered the pipe. He kind of remembered the shape of it, the look of it, and that he used it as an archetype. And he wasn't actually looking at anything at all. So now we're calling a memory a pipe. The obvious parallel, interestingly, coming from Frankenstein, is Frankenstein a human? Is Frankenstein a creature? Is Frankenstein a monster? I mean, given the fact that he's the first of his kind and that technology had never existed before, let alone somebody having done it, is he the first monster? And then we just simply use that term monster to tag him. Can I even say him? So, and that's why you hear the sound of the foundations that you rest on, your perceptions resting on, getting chipped away immediately. What he wants to say is that, okay, we're going to look at how language functions. Does it really function that way? You see it politically all the time. Is accepting help from someone else collusion? If you are the one who defines, if you have the power to define and you say this is not collusion, and that power sticks, you can make that stick. Okay, if this political office says this is not collusion, then this is not collusion. Which is why everybody's in an uproar, because all of a sudden it's, wait a minute, everybody's accepted this particular definition up until this point. We want to continue to accept this definition up to this point, that we've had up to this point. But now it's being changed. So now we have to have this fundamental conversation. What is it? What is it? So philosophically, it happens on this tiny level. But it also happens on a level that changes the world. How language is used to tag a concept or a or an object, let's say. How do you define this particular political office? Who's to say that it can't function this way? What really is negative or positive? And everybody's in an uproar. Everybody's trying to figure out. The ground moved in the last few years, all over the place, all parts of the world, basically. Certain stable parts left, but all over the world. I mean, the ground has shifted, and that's the problem. It's a fundamental shift. You have to argue from the ground up. That's why this is going to be a difficult read, and why this is becoming more and more interesting, because I'm looking at it at a different, does it fit my face? I'm sure there's plenty of people out there. Who cares if it fits your face? It's a Dr. Grabo. It's cool. Everybody's first pipe, right? That or, you know, Missouri Meerschaum. You know, my first pipe. You know, it's a pipe briar. No, not necessarily. Could be made out of metal, right? Radiate heat. Um, corn cobs. You know, so this pipe is in no way the standard. It's a $30 pipe. It bought at a store. It's in a blister pack. It's mass produced. I'm sure shipment has come in and that had been replaced after I bought it. Um, you know, all I did was read 2 more pages of this thing. You know, not certain I'm prepared to think this much about it. How good? It's 3. Bugs me, drives me crazy. I don't think it should be there. You know, my preconceived notion of a pipe. You know, is a pipe. Very often when I read, I use this to concentrate. I play with it, run it around, you know, find lots of different ways to hold it. You know, helps me concentrate when I read. You know, hang it. It's a prop. It's a prop. It's a prop for videos. You know, Brubaker's going to talk about books now. You know, Mr. Rogers put on his shoes and his cardigan. Brubaker sticks a pipe in his mouth and talks like this. I'm going to go watch 13th Warrior after I read a little bit more. Have a good night.